Welcome, and I'm sorry for the late start. Um, I hope you can hear me and see me. Actually, let me do a quick check on YouTube and make sure. Yeah, Jim. Oh, are you seeing me okay, Jim? Yeah, I restarted it, Jim. I was trying to get Facebook stuff squared away. I've shut down Facebook, and I'm just here for you folks on YouTube. YouTube cooperates with me. So, I thought I would start off tonight. As you know, usually I start off with some sort of a theme. It's kind of like my Johnny Carson monologue. Johnny Carson. Now I've just dated myself. Hello, nothing but love. I love your name. Would somebody over there? Okay, I'm coming through loud and clear. That's what I want to know. Good. Okay. Well, I'm in the Chicagoland area, and we get peaches from Michigan, and I'm a peach freak. I'm a peach aficionado. I love peaches as much as I do barbecue, and I've had them from Georgia, and actually South Carolina grows more peaches than Georgia does, and they're the best peaches I've ever had are from Michigan, and it's not surprising when you think about it. Um, Wine grapes, for example, the best wine grapes come from cool climates. You don't hear great wines coming from Georgia or South Carolina. They grow some down there, but they're not world class. Um, the great wines of the world come from the cooler climates, and the reason for that is you need warm, sunny days to get the fruit sweet, ripe, but you also need cool nights to keep the acid from dissipating, from burning off, because you need a balance of sugar and acid for great tasting fruit. And where cherries grow, grapes grow, peaches grow. And the Michigan peaches are just fantastic. And nothing but love. Yes, that's tonight's topic. We're going to be talking about grilling fruit. So I'm starting with my favorite. I'm starting with peaches. So you can get peaches, in many, many places. If you're going to grill a peach, you want to get it slightly underripe. You don't want when you squeeze it, you don't want it soft to the touch. You want it a little slightly underripe. You want it sweet though. And if you can, there are many different varieties of peach, but the world of peaches can easily be divided into cling peaches and freestone. Cling peaches are where the meat clings to the seed. Freestone is where you can slice the peach in half, and the two halves pop right off the seed. So that's easier for grilling. If they cling to the seed, it's kind of hard to slice them in half because you want to slice them in half to grill them. And so if you can, get freestones. If you can get Michigan peaches, ask for a variety called Red Haven. They're fantastic. So you split them in half and leave the skin on. And the most important thing in any fruit grilling is get your grill grate as clean as humanly possible. You don't want to put the cut edge of a peach down on top of a grill grate that's greasy with pork fat and beef fat. And that means the underside of the grate, too. The underside of the grate can often have a lot of gunk and coagulated fats and stuff, and they'll smoke. And when they smoke, they'll get into the fruit. So get your grates good and clean. Take them outside, hit them with a high pressure hose or a power washer, or scrub them down with a wire brush. We've all heard these tales about wire brushes leaving bristles behind and choking people. Just if you're using wire brushes, just watch what you're doing and be careful and make sure. But they are still the best way to clean a grill grate. And get it as clean as you can. I've been using a product lately called Grill Rescue. You can Google it, but what it is it's a grill brush with a pad on the end, and the pad is wrapped in the kind of material they make fire hoses out of. So it's really sturdy and it doesn't burn easily. And you dunk it in water, and when you run it over your grill grates, they steam, and that makes the grease easier to release. So get those grates good and clean. All right, now you split the peaches in half, and you don't have to do anything else. But I'll tell you some other fun things you can try. But you take the cut side down and put them on the grill grates. I wouldn't give it all she's got, Scotty. I'd turn the heat down just a notch, because you want to caramelize the sugars in the surface. And caramelization is a chemical reaction that happens when sugars are heated, and they get caramel-like flavors. But you want to not just caramelize the surface. You want to warm the interior. So you can't have it so high so that when you put the cut side down, you get dark grill marks right away, and the interior hasn't had a chance to warm yet. So somewhere, just below high heat, and then get some good char on there. Now, normally, if you've listened to me, you've heard me say you don't want to char your food, but a little char here is actually caramelization, because there's a lot of sugar in fruit. And so it will actually caramelize a little. And then, let's get a couple of grill grate marks on there if you want. You rotate them. They may try to stick. And a technique that will help you keep them from sticking is, before you put them down, paint them with a little butter. The butter actually flavor is not bad with the peach. And after you get that, you flip it over and you get some grill marks on the backside, and away you go. They're fantastic. Now, if you want to style, if you want to have some fun, I've been known to paint them with liqueurs. Limoncello. Lemon goes great with fruits. Oh God, what's the Scotch flavored with liqueur? I'm drawing a blank here. But you can paint them with liqueurs, and that's kind of fun. There's the Captain Morgan, which is a rum with a little heat that adds a little interest. Now, my new book, there it is, The Meathead Method, came out in May. I've got a fun recipe in there for peaches. I make a rum and brown butter and brown sugar sauce with some ice cream and grilled peaches. And the ice cream starts to melt from the heat of the peaches. So you now have, you've probably heard of crème anglaise. Crème anglaise is a classic old French recipe for a sweet cream sauce. And it's used in a lot of things. I mean, they even use it in French toast. Well, the recipe for crème anglaise is essentially the same recipe for ice cream. So if you take vanilla ice cream, thank you, Jim Drambuie. Yes, I'm getting old, folks. And the only influence, and Grand Marnier. Oh yes, thank you. Nothing but love. Grand Marnier is a really good one to paint with. Amaretto is another good one to paint with. So when the ice cream melts, essentially you now have a crème anglaise, which mixes with this buttery brown sugar rum sauce that I've made. It's a really nice recipe. It's in my new book, and it's just perfect summer dessert after a big old grilled barbecue meal. But just plain old grilled peaches in a bowl, or maybe a scoop of ice cream, and they're fantastic together. You can do this with apricots, plums. Now, you got to be careful. Plums can be very soft. But they're a lot of fun to grill peaches, and I think it's right up there with my favorite thing on the grill is pineapple. And I was surprised recently when I was talking to a live audience how many people have never grilled pineapple. I'll tell you, I think I may like grilled pineapple better than ribs. I'll tell you, it is just unbelievably good. Oh, Troy, you have the new book. Thank you for the kind words. He says it's great. Um, uh, uh, Grilled pineapple is awesome. And you can do this exact same thing. Okay, so you get your pineapple and you cut the skin off, and you can leave a few of the eyes in there. Nobody's going to choke on them. If you want, you can carve out the eyes. They kind of spiral around. And then they make a gadget that it looks like a coring device, the apple coring device that you can use to pull out the center. The center of the pineapple is really woody. It's not garbage, and we'll talk about what you can do with it in a minute. But the other technique is just slice it into about 1/2-inch size discs, and then you can cut out the core. But if you can pull out the core whole, and there are gadgets on Amazon you can get that slide down and you can suck them out, you grill these, and again, you let them get a little dark, let them get brown, maybe a couple of grill marks on there. Nothing But Love says he puts pineapple on a spicy pork tacos. Ooh, that sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, you could do a pineapple salsa to go with seafood. In fact, I think that's in my last book, a pineapple salsa to go with seafood. But just grilled pineapple all by itself, fantastic. I'll grill a slice of pineapple, and when I do a pork chop, I'll just bring it in and lay it on top of the pork chop. And when you dive into that pork chop, a slice of pork chop with a slice of grilled pineapple, it's just awesome. But like the peaches, if you want, you can paint them. You can hit them with a liqueur or a liquor, I mean a little bourbon or something as you're grilling them. And that turns out really nice. That's a lot of fun. Now, what's interesting is that core, if you can pull it all out, it's real woody to chew, but there's a lot of juice and sugar in there still. And I have taken that and put it in a Ziploc bag and tossed it in a sous vide bath. A sous vide bath is a warm water bath with what's called an immersion circulator, which keeps the water at a precise temperature. And I put it in there at about 150, I think. I forget my exact temperature. I've never written it down. But I just put it into a sous vide bath for a couple hours, and it kind of extracts the sugar water. And that's just a nice drink, or you can cook it down and make a syrup out of it, so you don't have to waste the core. But most people throw it out. Okay, so something else you can do. Now, this is a lot of fun. If you have a Dutch oven, now, if you've got one of the fancy enamel-coated French Dutch ovens, they're not the right tool for this. You can get a really good, inexpensive cast iron Dutch oven, and it serves all manner of purposes. In fact, if you got my new book, you can see I show you how to deep fry on a gas grill in a cast iron Dutch oven. And that's just a great technique because nobody does deep frying in their kitchen because it spatters all over, smells up the place, sets off the smoke alarm. But put your Dutch oven on a gas grill, turn one burner on high and leave the other burners off, and deep fry on your gas grill. And you can do fried chicken and onion rings and calamari, whatever you want. It's fantastic. I explained the process in my new book. But if you've got a Dutch oven, what you can do is you can build, it's like a pie. There's all kinds of interesting regional recipes for fruit desserts done in a Dutch oven. And what you do is it's typical on a camping trip. You put some hot coals on the ground, and then you put the Dutch oven on top of the hot coals. And the good ones for this purpose, the lid has a lip. And I actually have this on the website, AmazingRibs.com. But you put some coals on top of that lid, and that lip holds them there. And so now you've got heat from above and heat from below. Now, if you don't want to put them in the ground, if you don't have a bare spot of soil in your yard, just throw it on your grill. Throw it in. If you got a charcoal grill, just throw some charcoal in your charcoal grill. Set the Dutch oven on top. And now inside, you're going to take a compote. You're going to make, you're going to cut up the peaches in quarters or apples, peaches and cranberries together, blueberries and, oh, that's a great combo, blueberries and peaches. And you add a lot of sugar and you put them in the Dutch oven, and then you put biscuit recipe on top. So you're basically making, or you can make a pie crust recipe on top. And when it bakes, it cooks the biscuits or the pie crust. And there's all kinds, like for example, Brown Betty. Brown Betty has breadcrumbs on top. Then there's Buckle, which has a streusel on top. Let's see, cobblers are made with biscuit dough, cake batter, or cookie dough on top. Maybe even pancake dough. And of course, the crisp, which is my favorite. I have a really good recipe for a streusel. Streusel is flour and sugar and butter, and you get the ratio right, and it makes those little crunchy little bits. A crumble has oats on the top. Let's see. And then there's pandowdies and slumps and grunts. So these are all variations on the theme. So you get your Dutch oven and you make it's essentially you're making a pie filling. Just the same way you would make a regular pie filling. So go get a recipe for a pie filling. Or if you don't want to bother, you can just cut up the fruit. With a lot of these fruits, you want to add just a splash of lemon juice to give it some acidity, and sugar, and once it cooks, it makes a thick syrup, and then you put some sort of a topping. I like the streusel topping, and that's a really fun way to do fruits on the grill. What else? Clint Cantwell, who is the president of our company, and he's running our website now. He likes to do watermelon. I've tried it, and it really hasn't ever done anything for it. I only tried it once, and I didn't care for it, and I haven't tried it again. He likes it a lot, and he's got a recipe for it on AmazingRibs.com. But a lot of people love watermelon on the grill, so you might want to give that a try. And then, of course, pies. You can do a pie. You can put together a whole pie. Remember, a grill is just an oven. Now, when you're doing a pie, you have to set it up in two zones. You have to have a hot side and a not hot side, and the pie goes on the not hot side where it's being heated by convection airflow. There's my wife is a really good baker, and we have her pie crust recipe on the website, which she uses for pies, sweet pies, and savory pies, things like chicken pot pie and stuff. It's a really nice pie recipe. So you can put together a pie and just bake it on the indirect side of the grill. Let's see. What else have we got that I wanted to talk about? Strawberries and strawberry shortcake. You can do pound cake and even angel food cake and shortcakes on the grill, and they're nice. There's enough sugar in them that, you know, when you heat sugar, it changes the flavor and it makes it more complex. That caramelization process. And if you take a piece of pound cake and just throw it on the grill, keep the temperature low, get a couple of grill marks on it, get it browning a bit. Essentially, you're toasting it. And then once you've done that, you throw your strawberries on there. If you want, you can take your vanilla ice cream and melt it, and now you have creme anglaise. So now you have the grilled shortcake, the strawberries, and you can actually grill the strawberries. And again, it intensifies the flavor by caramelizing. Cut them in half, and for this you need a grill topper. A grill topper, they come in all sorts of flavors. I use the one by Weber. It's just a sheet of stainless steel with holes drilled in it, and that keeps the strawberries from falling through. But it also has a hot piece of metal so that the berries are in touch with hot metal, which helps with the caramelization process. Melt some ice cream, and now you have creme anglaise and strawberries and shortcake. A lot of fun. What else? And you can do mixed berries as long as you got a grill topper and you got the strawberries on there. If you've got blueberries or other berries handy, you can mix them in and you can have a fruit salad. And there's a recipe in my new book for a grilled fruit salad. So, this is fruit season, and there's all kinds of fun things you can do with fruits. They don't have to be desserts, but they certainly make great desserts. So that kind of wraps up my intro for tonight, and as usual, we can throw open the conversation for Q&A on any topic: fruits, equipment, barbecue and grilling, meats, whatever you want to talk about. I'm here for you. Next month, I think we'll talk about vegetables. By the way, I hope some of you out there know about the magazine and TV show Milk Street. Christopher Kimball owns and operates it. You know Kimball. He used to be at Cooks Illustrated. They had a fight, broke up. He went off and started up Milk Street, and it's marvelous. He's the guy with the bow tie, kind of tallish guy with a long neck and a bow tie. I'm going to be doing a live streaming show for them on grilling vegetables on August 12th. They charge a small fee to watch these live broadcasts. Go to Milk Street's website, and you should find registration information there. I'd love to have you come down and watch. They get a good turnout and good questions. And I'm going to be doing eggplant parmesan on the grill. And I haven't decided everything. I might do some of these fruit dishes. But I'm not going to be doing meat. The title of the event is Meathead Goes Veghead. Okay. Hello, Kevin. Kevin says it's hard to find this. It's on YouTube. I'm not sure. This stuff is over my head. For those of you who are here from YouTube, we were simulcasting on Facebook every month, and every month Facebook seems to put. This month, when I tried to sign in, it said the subject of the event must contain the name of the website. Well, I can't change the subject in my software, and it wouldn't allow me to broadcast tonight. So, fuck Facebook. I'm done with it. We will not be broadcast. We're just going to stick to YouTube. Forgive my French. Okay, so have we got some questions, comments? Kevin says X said it ended. Okay. That's possible. I started a broadcast and then I stopped it because I couldn't get Facebook on. And then maybe when I restarted, it didn't go back on X. I don't know. No, it's definitely not on Facebook. I shit-canned it. And I'm sorry if that caused you inconvenience, Kevin. I don't have anything to teach you anyhow. You know all this stuff. That's my little dissertation here on grilling fruits. Just a few things, a few ideas you can have fun with and play with. If you do have the new book, that rum sauce for the peaches and ice cream is really good. On the website, you'll find some recipes for pineapple and some more peach ideas and some pie recipes and other fun things. So, what's on your mind, guys? You got any questions? Comments? Trent says, thanks for Memphis Dust. Yeah, Memphis Dust is really good all around. And it's really versatile. And, I recently used it on smoked salmon. It's designed to be a pork rub, but I'm finding it works on a lot of different things. I did it on smoked salmon. It was really good. It's got a little brown sugar in there, which is, a little brown sugar is always nice on salmon. Yeah, these liqueurs, they're fun to play with when you're grilling fruits. Yeah, you want to watch it, make sure that, they don't stick. Generally, when things start to stick to the grill, it's always helpful. I took my spatula. First of all, I got a spatula with a beveled edge. Traeger sells a spatula that's huge. It may be 5 inches diameter, 6 inches long, and it's got a really deep beveled edge, pretty sharp edge. I took it downstairs. I have a little grinder down there in my workshop, and I ground that edge almost to a knife sharpness. And that really helps for things like smash burgers on the griddle. And if things are starting to stick, it can get down under there and pry them loose. But in general, when things start to stick, the best plan of action is leave it alone. It will eventually let go as the chemicals in the meat or the vegetables or the fruits contract as they change, as they get the Maillard reaction or caramelization. They tend to let go. Now, not always. I mean, we all know fish is a pain in the ass. But generally, they let go. And if you're having problems with grilling pineapple and it's sticking too much, first of all, as we said at the very top of the show, make sure those grates are really clean. And you can paint them with butter. Butter works nicely on fruit, so that will help release. P asterisk is your name. P asterisk. P star? What would I call you? P asterisk? Piaster? I don't know. If I could only cook eat three barbecue items the rest of my life, what would they be? Boy, that's a tough one, I really I love to cook, and I love food so much, and when I do something that I had not done before or I didn't know you could do, the surprise of, oh my gosh, can you do that on the grill? That really tickles my fancy. But one of the questions I almost always get is, what's your favorite cut of steak? And if you're a steak lover out there, everybody knows. I can ask you guys. Go ahead. What's your favorite cut of steak? I can tell you what the answer is going to be for 90% of you. Everybody type in your favorite cut of steak. I had my favorite cut of steak, and it's probably the same as yours. But when I was a boy, I used to hang out with my dad, who was a griller, and he taught me to grill. And I would hang out in the backyard with him, and he would often grill flank steak. And flank steak's got a lot of flavor, but it tends to be tough. And I've always loved it. I've always grilled it. I've got a fascinating technique. It's in my new book, where I grill it over grapevine cuttings. Grapevines are, of course, fruit wood, but I take a bushel of grapevine cuttings and put them in my Weber kettle. And when I light them, they catch on fire real quick, and they go up like 8 feet flame, and then they drop down to glowing embers that are really hot, 800,000 degrees. And I do my flank steak on that, and I get a really good crust. Now, flank steaks are maybe an inch thick on one end, and they taper off on the other. I'm not getting the answers I expected. Yeah, okay. I'm asking everybody. Everybody pipe up. Tell me your favorite cut of steak. So I really love flank steak. And then one day on a lark, I dug into my wallet and I ordered a Wagyu flank steak from Allen Brothers. They're a one of the few remaining butcheries here in Chicago, left over from the days of the big slaughterhouses, and they process really. I mean, they bring in all kinds of great Japanese beef and Wagyu and American Prime, USDA Prime. They're not cheap, but they're tip top quality. And I bought a Wagyu flank from them, and oh my God, it is as tender as any other cut on the animal. It has a lot of marbling in it, so it's got all the marbling flavor. It's got all the flavor of a flank steak plus the flavor of the marbling. And the way I cook it, I grill it hot and fast, get a great crust on it. It's so that has become my new favorite, and that shocks a lot of people because you guys are nuts out there. I'm looking at these. When I ask an audience, what's your, and especially among steak lovers, they almost all say ribeye. Now, Nothing But Love says ribeye. Jim Tortorelli says ribeye. But I've got Troy saying porterhouse and Steve saying porterhouse. Kevin, outside skirt steak. Trent is a T-bone, which is a lot like porterhouse. And Kevin is a sous vide flank. Yeah, okay. And Night Talker is picanha. All right. Well, I just gave you mine, which is Wagyu flank. And yeah, Kevin is a sous vide expert, and that's a really good way to tenderize and beat flank steak into submission. And then when you pull it out, you've got to sear it really hot and fast because you want a good crust on it. Trent says T-bone, and Steve and Troy are both porterhouse. You may know and may not, and forgive me if I don't mean to insult you, but they're both basically the same cut. There's a strip steak on one side of the T-bone, and then there's a filet mignon on the other side. So it's a T-shaped bone with two different muscles. And the filet mignon, of course, is the most tender muscle on the animal. Steak lovers generally don't pick that as their favorite because it doesn't have a lot of marbling. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. So I don't hear any of you picking it as a favorite. Filet mignon, it's a dish that is really popular with people who really prize tenderness. For those who prize flavor, the other cuts that you guys have leaned into are more flavorful. So you've got filet mignon on one side of a porterhouse and strip on the other. On a T-bone, the filet mignon portion is smaller. It's because it's from the tenderloin and it tapers at one end. And so it's the smaller end of the fillet. So it's mostly strip. And I like strip. I like strip a lot. Strip is the same muscle as the core of the ribeye. Ribeye is cut from the rib primal. And if you've ever seen the rib primal is comes from just below the shoulder and runs along the spine down to the end of the rib cage. And it has 7 bones, and the meat on it has 2 muscles. One is the spinalis dorsi, which is, think of a ribeye. It's got a little curved muscle on the outside, then a layer of fat, and then in the center you have a round muscle. And the round muscle is the longissimus dorsi, and it runs from practically the shoulder to practically the hip. But when the rib section runs out, that's the strips, USDA strips. So they're both the longissimus dorsi. The best muscle on the animal is the spinalis. And that's that little curve semicircle on the outside of the ribeye. It's absolutely the best muscle on the animal, and I won't take any argument on that one. The problem is if you're going to grill or roast a prime rib, which is a big, huge 7-bone monster, or you're going to cut it into steaks, ribeyes, it's a very small piece of meat. And because it's on the outside, it tends to overcook. So you get a beautiful medium rare longissimus, or the eye of the ribeye, it's called. But the cap, the rib cap, or the spinalis, tends to be overcooked. And that's a shame. So what I like to do is, it costs me a month's pay practically. Not quite that much. It's $300-400. But I'll go down and to my order from my butcher, USDA Prime, 7-bone rib roast. And it's what, about 18 inches long, about 5 inches thick, and has 7 beef ribs on it. And I'll bring that home, and I will run a knife between the rib bones and the meat and cut the rib bones off. And the rib bones are a meal in themselves. In fact, the recipe for how I cook the rib bones is in my new book. And they're fantastic. There's a pretty good amount of meat in between those bones. And if, depending on how you cut it, you can leave more meat on there from the ribeyes. So now you have this big long tube of meat without the bones. And I freeze the bones, and now that'll be a meal for the two of us, and it's just marvelous. That I smoke, and I smoke it to a high temp. What's left are the two muscles, the spinalis, or the rib cap, and the longissimus, or the rib eye, or the eye, the eye. And there's this layer of fat between them. And you know, if you've eaten a ribeye steak, there is that layer of fat in there, and usually you end up eating around it because it's not very pleasant to eat a whole fork full of fat. Well, that seam is easy to separate. You can run your fingers between the two muscles and pull the two muscles apart. And when you do, you end up with the spinalis. It's about 18 inches long. It's about 4 or 5 inches wide at one end, and it tapers kind of like a salmon fillet to down to an inch or two on the other end. And it's about an inch thick. So now you have the very best muscle on the animal, and it's very much like a flank steak. It's about an inch thick. It's about the same size. And if you cook it hot and fast, you are in for a spectacular treat. It's absolutely the best. Now, some butchers will sell you rib cap, they call it. They don't use the technical name. It's spinalis. Just ask for the rib cap. It's going to be expensive because they're pulling that off of their ribeye. And so, but you can get 6-8 ounce sections of rib cap. And if you can, just grill one up and go straight to heaven. So that stuff's fantastic. And now, after you take the rib cap off, you have the eye of the ribeye, or the longissimus, which is the same muscle as the strip. And one of the nice things about the strip is it doesn't have that thick layer of fat because there is no rib cap on it. So the strip is a little tougher than the eye of the ribeye, but it's the same muscle. And you can now take that big old tube of the eye of the ribeye and either roast it as a roast, and I do that for Christmas. And actually what I do is I sous vide it here at my house, and then I take it over the river and through the woods to my niece's house where dinner is going to be served, and put it back in the sous vide bath, and it sits there until about a half hour before dinner, and then I take it out back and I sear it off on their grill. But you can also cut it into ribeye steaks. And now you can cut them if you want 1 inch thick, cut some 2 inches thick. You can cut them to however thickness you want. So it's expensive to buy a whole 7-bone prime rib, but in the long run, it's probably cheaper, and you have more versatility. You can get a meal just out of the rib bones. You can get a meal plus out of the rib cap, and you can get maybe 8 or more meals out of the eye with steaks. And trim all the fat, all the surface fat, get rid of all that surface fat. It doesn't penetrate the meat. Meat is 75% water, fat is oil. Oil and water don't mix. Save that fat. You can render it down. I use that rendered beef fat when I'm cooking on my griddle. If I'm cooking burgers on the griddle, I throw that down. So you can save that. Okay, so that's my prime rib technique and my comment on the rib cap. If you've not had rib cap, it's worth splurging on, or the Wagyu flank steak, worth splurging. Now, Kevin is the odd man out with a really nice cut, the outer skirt. Skirt steak, there are 2 popular cuts, the inner and the outer, and the outer is the better. It's the more tender, and it's thicker. And the problem with skirt is it's very thin. It's under 1 inch thick. So if you almost every time you cook it, it's going to be well done edge to edge. It's really hard to get a good dark crust without cooking the center well done. And the way I do it is I fill my charcoal chimney with charcoal, light the charcoal chimney. I put a grate on top of the charcoal chimney, and I cook my skirt steak on top of the charcoal chimney. It's extremely hot. It's 800 to 1,000 degrees. So I get a great dark sear, just 2 minutes on one side, flip, 2 minutes on the other side, flip and flip. 2 flips on each side, perfect dark sear, and I can get it medium rare in the center. And that itself is marvelous. Or it's, that's the cut that is common in a lot of Mexican roll-ups and other tortilla-wrapped foods. So, okay. Oh, and Night Talker is into picanha. Picanha is really an interesting cut. It comes from the rear of the animal, and it's kind of down in the thigh, in the crotch area, what's really interesting, you've seen this if you've ever eaten a Brazilian steakhouse, where they have these skewers and there's these little half moons of meat. That's picanha, there's often a thick layer of fat on top, and it's the tastiest fat on the animal. And the tendency for a lot of people, especially, they don't, most people don't want to eat a lot of fat. This fat's worth tasting. And you can do it at home. They do it on a rotisserie. They get these picanha half moons and stick them on a rotisserie and rotate it right over hot coals, very close to hot coals. And what they'll often do is they'll just shave the outer layer, which has got a lot of brown Maillard, but right below it, it's rosy and medium rare. Hard to duplicate that at home. I've shown how, it's one of the methods I've shown how to do on the website, but it's a really nice piece of meat, and the fat, eat it. Okay, so we're talking steak, I guess. Yes, Kevin is pointing out that the fillet portion of a porterhouse must be 1.5 inches wide. If it's less than 1.5 inches, it's called a T-bone. So there you go. And I've got pictures of them on the website, and in one of my books, the other book, I think the first book has side-by-side pictures. They're both delicious, but the T-bone has less fillet. Yeah, Kevin is saying the great the sign of a great prime rib is when they nail it and the spinalis is as pink as the rest of the cut. Very hard to do because it wraps around the outer side, and that's where the heat is, and so it tends to overcook. And there's so much marbling in the rib cap, in the spinalis, almost always overcooks. It's very hard to do it, although it's easy to do with sous vide, and that's your specialty. Bob Allman says he got the book. I hope you're referring to the new book. There's two of them down. See, there they are. The original and the imitation. No, the sequel. They're both good. People often ask me, what's the difference? The first book, both books are designed pretty similarly. The first half of the book is a textbook. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And, you know, when you go to a website, you go to Google and you ask Google, how do I cook ribs? And it sends you to my website and it sends you to my recipe. And it parachutes you in. And the recipe has links to how the temperature affects and how to cook indirect. And you're all of a sudden jumping around. And you're, you know, this hypertexting stuff. And you can learn, you can do stuff great that way. But one of the reasons I write books and I love books is because there is a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I can hold your hand and take you through the process. So both books do the same thing. They start off with a beginning and they explain, and there's a lot of science and myth busting in both of them. But the new book is really focused on technique and methods, how to do stuff. And some new stuff, like I talked a little earlier about deep frying on a gas grill. There's a section on sous vide in there. There's a section on koji, which is a mold, and how to use koji. And koji is what is used in making miso and soy sauce. And it's a mold. So the new book is focused on method and technique. And when it comes to the recipes, well, the first book's got a really good ribs and really good pulled pork and really good brisket. For this book, I couldn't repeat them. I went to the competition cooks, the guys who win $10,000 prizes for their ribs. And I hung out with them, I watched them, I talked to them, I stole their ideas with permission. And so the ribs recipe in here is competition ribs. So if you want to cook a slab of ribs like the champion cooks do, which is different from how we normally cook in the backyard, because they're working for one bite. They know that the judges, there's 6 judges, they're given one bone cut off a slab. It's set down in front of them, and most of them take only one bite. Some of them will take 2. But you have to knock them out of the chair with one bite. So how do you do that? And they have all kinds. I mean, I know one cook who seasons the top side of the ribs with one rub and the underside with another rub. How about that? So in any case, I have competition ribs, competition brisket, competition pulled pork, competition chicken in there. I have recipes for almost all my rubs in there because you may know that we were manufacturing and selling rubs and sauces. Well, we are discontinuing them. That industry is so competitive. They're really good products. But we don't have a sales rep on our team. We're educators. We write about, we teach, and we don't have a salesman. So we couldn't get the grocery stores and the big box stores to carry our rubs and sauce because we couldn't put the energy and time. We put the energy and time into our website and our Pitmaster Club. By the way, if you haven't tried a 30-day trial in the Pitmaster Club, earlier this year we added 120 broadcast quality instructional videos from top pitmasters like Tuffy Stone and Harry Sue and Meat Church, and there's just some really great new video in there. So if you haven't taken the free 30-day trial, you should. And if you bought the book gives you a 60-day free trial. We don't ask for a credit card. So after your trial is over, we're not going to charge you automatically like most of these trial subscriptions. So do that. But in any case, where the hell was I going? I'm rambling all over the place. Um, the rubs that we were manufacturing, recipes very similar to them, are in my book. So you might want to look at that. Yeah, Kevin is talking about Umansky's book on koji. Umansky is a chef with a deli in Cleveland, and it's a marvel. And the food's marvelous, and the guy knows everything there is to know about koji. And I have the book, and I've been to the restaurant. I've spent the day with him, and I was thrilled when I walked in. There was my book on display. His book on koji is really technical, really scientific, and I've figured out the simple way to do it with koji, and I have how to use koji simply in this new book. Yeah, Steve, yeah, it's too bad. The rubs are very good, but I think the recipes will get you very close. Yeah, Bob's saying the Memphis dust on baby backs blows people away. Yeah, I know. But again, you can, it's cheaper to make it. Kevin says hire an unemployed chef with decades of experience and a great salesman. Are you offering yourself, Kevin? Yeah, we need sales help. I have the sales gene, but I don't have the time to, be on the phone and calling big box stores and stuff. So in any case, we weren't making a lot of money on it. These guys like Meat Church and Malcolm Reed and those guys, they put a lot of time and energy and money into selling their rubs and sauces. And they have great videos, and they're all centered around their rubs and sauces. And, I just can't do that. Yeah, the chicken rub is awesome on grilled quesadillas. Stop it. You're going to make me cry. I have put out some feelers. I met a lady from McCormick Spices recently, and they recently started making barbecue spices for peg leg porker out of Memphis. Out of Nashville. And I asked her if she was interested in making mine, and she said she'd consider it. And I sent her samples and haven't heard back. She's ghosting me. So we'll see. I'm asking around if we find the right situation, but I just don't want them to manufacture it. I want somebody who can sell it. So, Night Talker says, yeah, he's a beef fat guy. Yeah. If you trim a brisket or a prime rib, there's a lot of fat there. And I have on the website how to render this fat into tallow or lard if you're doing pork fat. It keeps a long time in the fridge. It doesn't go rancid, surprisingly. Tallow is pretty useful. A lot of people rave about painting their briskets with tallow. I've never found that to be terribly effective, but I do throw some tallow on my griddle when I'm doing smash burgers. I love doing Oklahoma onion burgers. So a little tallow down there. Now there's a lot of talk on social media, most of it treading on very tenuous, unscientific information that condemns vegetable oils and oils made from seeds. I'm not going to get into this. I've read all of the research on it and everything. I suppose if you eat fried chicken every night, you're going to eat a lot of oil. But if I'm frying stuff, if I'm sauteing, if I'm cooking, I'm using butter, ghee. Use a lot of ghee now. Ghee is butter that has been gently cooked so that the milk solids come out, so that they don't brown and burn, and you end up with if you know about butter, you know that there's water in butter. There's no water in bacon fat or tallow or lard. It's pure fat. But butter has some water in it because it's made from milk. And I also show you how to make butter on the website. And you can see all the water that comes out of it. But it's easy to make ghee, and that's also, I think, on the website. But you can buy it in a jar. But it has a much higher smoke point than butter. Butter will smoke at a fairly low temp. Ghee is right up there with inexpensive olive oil and others, and it's fine for frying. And I use it on my griddle a lot. Troy, he's using tallow and butter on reverse searing steaks. Yeah. I learned some tricks about steaks years ago from Chef Rick Gresh, who was the chef at Prime, the restaurant named Prime here in Chicago. And he would grill steaks. And, by the way, you get into this big debate about charcoal versus gas. Almost every darn steakhouse in the country is using gas. And I can explain why in a minute. But in any case, he's grilling steaks with high temperature, high infrared burners. And he paints it, he calls it beef love, but he paints it with tallow, which gives it more fat flavor. Remember, marbling is flavor. So he paints it with tallow. It's a nice touch. Yeah, Kevin, Kevin, you're right, and not necessarily. Ghee actually has some browning flavors from milk solids. Clarified butter doesn't. That doesn't always hold true, I've discovered. Ghee is loosely defined, and ghee is often just clarified butter, which is also butter without milk solids. It depends on who manufactures it, whether it's made in India, whether it's made in this country. But in general, let's talking about ghee, let's just talk about clarified butter. Clarified butter is butter that the milk solids have been removed. And you can do this at home. It's easy. So, Gary is just checking in from Canada. You guys are getting here. I mean, we're about to wrap up. It's been an hour. But as long as questions come in, I'll hang with you guys. There was something we just touched on that I was going to expand upon. What the hell was it? Oh, and here's something from the book that's really interesting. All right, so you've trimmed the fat off your brisket and your prime ribs, and you can freeze it, or you can render it and then keep it in the fridge. Every cookbook in the world says when you make a burger and you put it on the grill, leave it alone and don't smash it. If you smash it, all the juices come out and it gets dry and hard. And that's true. But I've been tasting some burgers in restaurants lately that are really good. And they're all cooked on gas. And I'm trying to figure out what's special about them. And I did some fiddling around, and I hit upon an idea that's working really well for me. Your typical burger blend. Well, if you just buy ground meat, it's like 90% lean, 10% fat. But if you buy Burger Blend burger meat, it's usually 80-20, 80% lean, 20% fat. Now, if you make a burger 80% lean, 20% fat, and you throw it on the grill, if you smash it with the spatula, a lot of liquid fat and juices, water, come out. They drip down onto the charcoal or the gas fire. And what happens is they volatilize, they vaporize, and those vapors come up and they hit the meat. And they can flavor the meat. And a lot of the best burgers I've had in restaurants and stuff, they're cooking the meat very close to the coals or the flame. And they're smashing. Now, the result comes out a little bit dry and tough, but marvelous flavor. All right, guys, can you hear where I'm going? I'm making my burgers 70-30 now. You got to ask for that. Or if you just buy an 80-20, then you can blend in some ground fat from your brisket or your prime rib. But if you start with a 70-30 burger, you've got fat to spare. So you make your burger, you put it on the grill, and then you, as it cooks, you got to wait until the fat renders. So you got to cook it at least partially, maybe done on one side and flip it on the other, and then smash it with your spatula so that the fat and the juices and the rub and everything hit the hot coals. And if you can, get your grate right near the flame, and they come back up onto the burger, and you get that marvelous flavor. And it's not going to be dry because you're going to lose about 10% of the fat, which makes it moist and juicy. But now you're down to an 80-20. So that's my trick. It's from the new book, The Method. Right, Kevin. You probably end up, well, I think you probably end up with maybe 10, 15. I don't know. I there's no way for me to measure. But yeah, it comes out tender and juicy and flavorful. So fun to play with, and lots of flavor. Kevin is saying making clarified butter sous vide. You know, I've never tried that, but I bet it works just fine. I've done it, and I really don't remember how I did it, but I did it in a jar. I took a jelly jar and put some butter in there, and then I put the jelly jar in the bag. And what temp do you do it at, Kevin? But you can buy clarified butter or ghee. What's my thoughts on smoking a whole picanha on a pellet smoker? Yeah, okay. So picanha, we talked about, it's usually cut into these little curved sections and skewered at the Brazilian steakhouses. But it's sort of a triangular cut, maybe 3-4 pounds. And it's got this thick fat layer on top. And you can smoke it. I am not a huge fan of smoking my steaks or my burgers or my beef. I do smoke, of course, brisket and beef bones, but I don't know. It's a flavor that I don't think melds easily with steaks, and picanha is a steak. I grill it, but you can do it on a pellet smoker. Try it and see how you like it. I mean, a lot of people love smoked prime rib. I mean, it's cool because the smoke doesn't penetrate far. It can only get in maybe 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. So, it's not going to flavor everything. And now the thing about, Gary, pellet smokers is you've used the right term. It's a smoker. It's not a grill. A lot of folks call it pellet grills. We touched upon this earlier. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again because I want to make sure everybody understands. To get a great Maillard reaction, the dark brown surface that you want on a steak, or just about anything, you need infrared radiation. Infrared radiation comes from glowing coals or flame. On a gas grill, it's flame. On a charcoal grill, it's glowing coals. And you have to be directly over the flame or the glowing coals. And it's a really intense type of energy. And it browns the surface, and it creates extra flavor. And for example, if you're a sous vide, as Kevin is, you know when you come out of the sous vide bag, it's dull and gray. So you've got to get high heat. Now, a lot of them throw it into a hot pan, but infrared is a great way to get dark brown crust and flavor. And I mentioned earlier, I sometimes cook directly on top of a charcoal chimney for searing. You can't sear in an oven. Like, take a steak and pop it in your oven at 300. It'll cook, it'll be nice, but you're not going to get a good sear on it. You're not going to get a dark brown crust. The way you get a dark brown crust is from really intense energy, which you can get from a pan, putting it in a hot pan. That's conduction energy. Or putting it above a flame or glowing coals. That's infrared energy. And infrared energy is, you encounter it all the time. Everybody knows that the sun produces a lot of ultraviolet, and that's what changes the color of your skin, gives you suntan. But there's much more infrared coming out of the sun than there is ultraviolet. And that's what makes the back of your neck hot on a sunny day. You go out on a sunny day and you can feel that infrared energy. It's hot. Infrared energy is heat. So if you set up your grill in two zones, where one side has got hot coals and the other side nothing, you're going from the sunny side to the shade. And it's a good way of thinking of it. Well, you step into the shade and you're blocking the infrared and the ultraviolet. It's still warm, but it's not as warm, it's not as hot as it is when you step out in the shade of the sun. So you want to set up your grill with a sunny side and a shady side. All the energy on one side, no energy on the other. Bob Allman saying a brisket-style smoked tri-tip is very good. I've heard of that. I just can't make myself do that. I love tri-tip. I love it medium rare. And I just can't cook it to 200 degrees. You know, the reason we cook brisket to 200 is because there's so much connective tissue. Brisket is the chest muscles of the animal. And they bear the weight of the head, the shoulders, the front legs, and half the back. They bear a ton of weight. And cattle don't have collarbones like we do to help distribute that weight. So that the chest muscles are carrying a lot of weight, and they're hardworking. And there's just a lot of connective tissue. And if you try to cook a brisket medium rare, it is going to be tough. And what you do is you cook it way past well done, up to 200 degrees or so, until you melt those connective tissues into gelatin and until you render the fat. And that's the secret of brisket. I don't see the need to do that for tri-tip, which is, people often call it the poor man's filet mignon, although I think it tastes better than filet mignon. The problem with tri-tip is it's sort of a boomerang shape and it tapers on the ends. So the tips tend to be well done, which is great if you've got a spouse who prefers their steak medium or well done and you prefer it medium rare. You get your tastes, you get your cuts from the center, and your spouse gets cuts from the edges. What do you mean you're limited on characters, Kevin? Does YouTube prevent you from typing much? Well, I think we've covered a lot, and it's been an hour and 15 minutes, and this old man's tired. He had a long day today. Spent an hour in my dentist chair and another half hour at each bank. I have my personal bank and my business's bank, and had some banking to do. So, you got another question or two? Otherwise, we can wrap it up. Yeah, Jim Tortorelli is saying he burned through some wimpy, small aftermarket metal grills on a charcoal chimney and then started using a dedicated charcoal grate that can handle the heat. Yeah, there's actually some guys making grates. If you go on Amazon, they're making grates that fit right on top of a charcoal chimney now. And they're a little sturdier, so you might look into those. I just snatched the grate off of my Weber kettle. Kevin says something stopped him from writing more. I don't know what it is, Kevin. I've never heard it before. Anybody know why Kevin can't write more? Kevin, maybe somebody finally figured a way to keep you quiet. How's my golden doing? We have a yellow lab. Some of you may know that one of our hobbies is we train puppies for Leader Dogs for the Blind. Leader Dogs for the Blind is a outfit out of Rochester, Michigan, just north of Detroit. They have a kennel there, and they breed and raise puppies for training to be guide dogs for the blind. And we've been, what they typically do is the puppy at 7 or 8 weeks old, they give them the volunteers like my wife and me, and we teach them the basics, the 10 commandments, I call it. Sit down, stay, come, heel, how to cross streets, and, just civilize them. But the cool thing is we get to take them everywhere. We take them to restaurants, take them to the doctor's office, take them to the dentist, because we have to socialize them. And they have to learn their manners. They have to learn when you're in the doctor's office, you don't eat the pills that are on the floor. They have to learn how to ride the train. And then after a year, we have to give them back. And that's always tough. It breaks your heart because you fall in love with them instantly. They then are trained by professionals who give them the finishing training. It's like off to grad school. Where they learn how to cross streets with cars coming, walk down sidewalks and be aware of low-hanging branches, and the final training that will turn them into guide dogs. I'm going to veer off here, but yeah, it's nice having a permanent puppy, and we have one. We have always had a permanent dog. And in fact, they help us train because they know, stay out of the garden. Hey, you. And we've seen them grab the puppy and haul him out of the garden or off the furniture. Puppies aren't allowed on furniture around here. We're getting a new one in September. We think it's a yellow lab. But we have a yellow lab now. So in any case, the cool thing about this process is that after we send them back, they have I think it's like 4 or 5 months of advanced training. And then the trainers, there's dormitories on the Leader Dog campus. And blind people fly in and they live in the dormitory. And it's like an apartment or a dorm room in a college. And they live there for a little bit and they take classes on how to work with a guide dog. And then one day, the trainer brings the dog into the dormitory room and hands the leash to the blind person. And they start to bond. And they start to work together. And this is the amazing miracle about it. At some point, the dog, up till now, the dog has been training. And training is fun. It's play. Sit, down, stay. I get a treat every time I do the right thing. I get praise. I get love. This is different. The dog figures out this is not a game anymore. This is not play anymore. If I fuck up, my master dies. I can't fuck up crossing the street. And it's just amazing. Somehow they figure this out. And the two of them bond, and they practice together and train together and go home together. It's just miraculous, and it's a lot of fun for us because we get a puppy. You get 3 or 4 weeks of puppy breath and all the training, and they're loving, and it's a lot of fun. And they go off and do good stuff. So one of the interesting things that's happening now is the process of working with a guide dog has changed. Guide dogs don't know where the post office is. You can't tell the dog, take me to the post office. But now you've got a smartphone and so it can tell you, turn left, turn right, go here, go there. So when you combine a smartphone with a guide dog, you can go just about anywhere. You can fly into a strange city where you don't know where anything is, and you can find your way around. That's amazing. My wife is pretty convinced that eventually some sort of robot dog is going to replace guide dogs. I hope not. But one of the things that also is very interesting is these electric cars don't make a lot of noise. And part of the process of crossing streets is both the handler and the dog listen for approaching cars. The dog can look, it can see the car, but the blind person cannot. And so the blind person is the one who initiates crossing the street. So they stand on the corner, and if the blind person steps off the curb and the dog sees a car coming, it's the only time he's allowed to disobey his master. He steps in front of the master and prevents him from stepping into the street. Because the master can't hear an electric car. And that's a problem. And there's actually discussion in Congress and in regulatory agencies of requiring electric cars to make a noise. There's little devices you can put on the bumper that make a whistling sound. Very interesting. Well, we really went far off of the tracks, but I'm excited. We're just a little more than a month away from getting our new puppy. And if you come back in September, maybe I'll have my puppy in my lap. We'll see. So let's call it a night, and thanks for your attention. And sorry for the little digression there, but it's something I feel passionate about, and I'm kind of psyched up. So go grill some fruit. If you can get your hands on some Michigan Red Haven peaches, you're in for a real treat. And we'll see you next month. And it'll just be YouTube, no Facebook. Done with those idiots. Okay. Have a happy summer, and we'll see you in August.